Naperville, Florida is on the line. Pamela is with us. Hi, Pamela. How are you?
Great. How about yourself?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Well, I've been listening to your show, and especially the first hour today, and where you were asking parents, if their children are willing to listen to the teachings. Well, I have a 21-year-old who is just god awful with money. He doesn't have any debt yet, but he's working not quite full-time, not going to school, and he can't make it paycheck to paycheck. By the end of the first week, his paycheck's gone, and he doesn't get paid for another week. And then he's trying to mooch money off of me or his father or whatever. And I'm wondering what kind of advice you have other than taking him out back and beating him over the head with sticks. For parents like me that are struggling, I myself...
Where does he live?
He lives in my house.
Oh, okay. See, that changes the equation. If he's 21, he lives on his own, and he can't make his bills, then you would come alongside him as you would a friend. Let's say one of your friends had a kid that was 21 and wasn't making his bills. What would you do with them? You'd sit down with them, have a cup of coffee with them, and say, hey, I noticed you're struggling with this, and I'd like to help show you how to do this and coach you a little as an older friend. And that's what you would do if he wasn't living at home. And that's what you'll do since he is living at home as your first step.
And we have gone through that.
And, and so, well, then I would revisit it one more time, and I would revisit it with a little more firmness this time and just say, okay, here's the situation. We did not do a good job of teaching you this stuff because you didn't learn it up until now. That's on us. But here's the thing. You're 21 now, which the law says you're an adult. It's questionable, but the law says you're an adult. And so the situation is this. We're going to show you how to budget, and you're going to learn how to budget. And you need to do that because that's what's good for you, because you can't win living like you're living. Now, you're either going to do that voluntarily, or we're going to make it a condition of you continuing to live here. You're going to have to move out if you don't do this.
Okay.
Because I'm going to make you learn how to do this. And by the way, that's not us punishing you or controlling you. This is what's known as an act of love, because you don't have the life skills to make it in the big boy world. And so we're going to walk with you and give you those life skills because we care about you, son. And we're going to put our arm around you, and we're going to walk with you. And you're going to accept our assistance and coaching, and you're going to go along with that, because that's how you're going to pay rent. And if you don't do that, then your rent is behind and you'll be evicted. And so you have two choices. Move out so that you have the freedom to continue your stupidity, or accept our coaching, and we'll consider that as your rent paid in full. Very calmly and just kindly. And I don't know how rebellious or strong-willed he is. With my kids, I wouldn't have had trouble with that. If my parents had done that as wild as I would have moved out because I was stupid.
Yeah, and he's stupid, so he probably will end up moving out, and he won't have a car because we provide him one.
Yeah, see,
and all he's required to do is pay his insurance every month.
Yeah, and so you don't get that because it's in my name. And so you're going to find out how life really works. You're going to be like a homeless guy. That's what's coming up, Bubba. So hopefully, but listen, you and your husband, you got to go away and talk about this for a few hours and nail this down, because you're going to feel like bad parents or something, and you're not bad parents.
Well, the biggest problem with that is my husband is not his father.
Okay.
We're a blended family.
Yeah. Well, then you've really got to be on the same page. And how long has your husband? How long have you been married to your current husband?
12 years.
Okay, so he's been very involved in the raising of this young man.
Absolutely.
And how is their relationship?
It is strained because my husband is very forceful with his teachings.
Okay.
And with his expectations. He's retired military.
Okay. Well, I would suggest he crank down the military a few notches and put a little softness around the edges. And so let's be an iron fist and a velvet glove instead of just an iron fist.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not trying to push the kid out into the cold. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to modify his behavior and get him to make better choices as a young adult for his own good. We're not trying to
Oh,
harm him.
absolutely.
We're not trying to harm him. And so your husband, but you can't call that out in front of this kid ever again. You and your husband have to present a united front on this subject. And you know how, the even tone with which I've been discussing this with you, very calm but very strong. That's the type of that's the type of tone your husband and you would take, because I'm not trying to set this little firecracker off. That's not my goal here. I want to persuade him. And I want you see what I'm saying? If you want to set the little firecracker off, I know how to do that. Just bust up in his face, he'll blow up and head out the door. But that's not the goal. The goal is not to throw him out. The goal is to get him to change. I don't want him to leave. I want him to abide by these rules.
Well, some days we do want him to leave, but that's another story.
Well, and I left I left home at about that age and went out and I lived through it. And it was not, I was stupid, but
I was out at 19 as well.
And I was rebellious and mean and redneck and all those things. And I had all that. So, and I'm 53 now. I lived through it all. And, but it's not the best track for him if we can get him to conform. But if we can't get him to conform, he needs to leave. And by the way, the days you want him to leave, that means he's doing something that's not acceptable in your home. And those things got to go too. We have a value system in our home. And if you're going to be under our roof, regardless of what your name is, you're going to abide by that value system. And that's not mean. That's called manners. If I came and stayed in your house, I wouldn't do things that you didn't allow in your house. That would be horrible of me as a guest. And by the way, when you're 21, you're a guest.
I like that theory of it. Yeah, absolutely.
And so you just kind of got to set that stuff back up. But you guys, you and your husband pull aside, kind of lay out exactly what your expectations are of the conversation. And it might be a good idea if he's already said too much, your husband being, if he was sitting there with you to represent a united front, and then you present the material. You present the lowdown, the ultimatum. And that way maybe he hears it this time. But he needs to hear it, and you guys, and it doesn't have to be instantaneous. We're going to give you 30 days because we're kind of springing this on you. But you're going to start doing this, honey, because we love you. And you not doing this is bad for you. People who live, thank God it's Friday, oh God it's Monday, struggle through their whole lives, and we don't want to watch you struggle through your whole life. That's the kind of message. In other words, this is about helping him, and he needs to hear that instead of you throwing him out. But it may result in that, and that'll be an act of love too, because if he gets out there and figures out how hard it is, maybe he'll read a book then. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't want to take him out in the backyard and hit him with a board. He's too old for that. It doesn't work. I just may take him out in the backyard and take his keys away, and he can't get back in.
That's an option as well.
Well, y'all have fun with this, but iron fist and a velvet glove. That's what you're looking for here. And so, because you are kind of coming on the scene late with this and trying to, insert something into somebody late in the game. It's it's harder to teach an older dog new tricks. But it's also okay if you lovingly, maybe you help him move. I don't mind him moving, and you help him move. You don't have to, tear the relationship apart for him to move out. That's not the end of the world. And even with all of that, I'm still going to set the expectation that in about 6 months he's gone. He needs to plan to get his act together and move on in 6 months, because he's been home long enough, and it's good for him. I got to tell you, folks, I'm so convinced that eagles don't fly if they don't leave the nest. They don't fly. Sitting in the nest, an eagle becomes a turkey. They need to leave the nest. They fly. Spread your little wings. Flap them, baby. Flap them. There are rocks below if you don't flap them. Flap them. And there's so much, you just can't soar if you don't leave the nest. There's no wind. There's no updraft. You don't get to see the views. You don't have the thrill. None of that's there if you don't leave the nest.